Process excellence restrictor number 4. We only engage a small percentage of our people. The prevailing system of management has destroyed our people. W. Edwards Deming. How engaged are your people? In the 1980s and 1990s, employee involvement was actually a fad. This fad was born in the early 1980s as one means of supporting total quality management and mirroring the Toyota production system. The Japanese had made extensive use of quality circles and employee-driven suggestion systems to improve their quality and general performance, and we figured, if Japan can, why can't we? I was fortunate in that the first company I went to work for as an industrial engineer out of college had a quality circle. My second employer had both a quality circle program and a pay for ideas program. More chances to learn. From that point forward, each company I worked for used employee involvement in one form or another to help improve their performance. In the 1990s, I became a volunteer leader of the Association for Quality and Participation, a not-for-profit group whose mission was to promote the power of employee involvement. For the next 10 years, I actively championed this people-focused cause. Inroads were made, but getting full support was a struggle. Reengineering approaches, technology advancements, and design flaws in the Quality Circle team concept resulted in employee involvement falling out of favor as we neared the end of the 1990s. Teams were a central part of both the Six Sigma and Lean fads that emerged early in this new century, but the intent of these approaches was much more cost reduction focused than it was to utilize the skills and talents of all of our people focused. I believe that employee involvement is now making a comeback. I think it has to make a comeback, but with a new moniker, employee engagement. If all work is a process, then you need to engage all of your people in a daily manner to improve the performance of the processes they are part of. While this sounds logical, many organizations have lost touch with a high percentage of their people. Many employees simply show up to work each day and do what they are told, or do what they can get away with. They're rarely informed about what the organization is trying to accomplish, let alone involved in helping it improve. However, this is not the case in the organizations that are true high performers. Why project teams aren't enough. Reason 1, only a small percentage of the organization is involved. If you aren't on a team, you don't have to improve. Improvement only happens in team meetings. Number 2, team effectiveness varies significantly. You only have so many skilled team leaders. Most teams and team leaders are poorly trained. Number 3, teams are rarely integrated into the larger work systems. Team time is not designed into jobs and costs. Support for implementing team ideas is generally low. And number 4, unsupported teams run out of gas in 2 to 3 years. People tire of using extra time to support teams. I find it quite ironic in this day and age when I go to conferences and hear people actually boast about the success of their problem-solving teams. Even though they only involve a small percentage of their people on these teams, and often no hourly people at all, they seem to think that 1, they're doing something unique, and 2, they're accomplishing great things. I can still remember organizations 40 years ago that were engaging 65% or more of their people. What is the current engagement level in your organization? While it is quite true that having just a few project teams is better than not having any project teams at all, project teams alone are not enough to reach true process excellence levels, and they definitely do not provide sufficient fuel to sustain process excellence over time. Why? The answer is simple. Not enough people are engaged. The higher the percentage of people involved with process improvement, the faster you can go. I have seen team approaches both flourish and die in organizations. I've personally helped more than 150 teams achieve success with different improvement projects, and I've seen project team emphasis die when leaders grow weary of trying to support their teams while also trying to do their regular jobs. What saddens me the most is that I see too many cases where the teams are viewed as the only drivers of process improvement in an organization. The perception is, if you're not on a team, you don't have any process improvement responsibility. Other organizations think their managers, engineers, and specialists can handle all the organization's process improvement demands on their own. There's no real need to involve the hourly people. You can achieve success by only involving these special groups, but you can achieve much higher levels of success, process excellence in other words, if you involve essentially everyone in one way or another. I've seen the difference. It's drastic and impressive. How do you approach process improvement? Who do you involve, and how do you involve them? What other forms of engagement do you use to keep people involved and to benefit from their ideas? Organizational improvement drivers. High-performance organizations recognize that 3 team types are needed to support process excellence on a daily basis. First, you need project teams, or problem-solving improvement teams. Second, you need focus teams, such as your leadership team, safety committee, planning team, and recognition committees. Third, you need process work teams. All organizations have at least one work team, and usually have at least one focus or project team in action at any time. They may not recognize these teams as such, but the teams are in place. To maximize organizational effectiveness, all 3 types of teams are needed, and efforts must be made to increase team effectiveness over time for each team type. If process work teams are supported properly and empowered, they will provide day-to-day improvements of a small, incremental nature. Work team members will also identify larger system improvements that are needed, future projects in other words. As the time that these people can spend on project work is limited by the design of their jobs, they normally focus on making daily, job-specific changes. The larger changes that they identify and need to put in place will be passed on to others, either individuals or teams, for further development. Project teams are needed to identify and put in place larger system changes, which may include innovations or step changes. Individuals such as engineers can implement changes of these nature without using a team, but in most cases, buy-in and improvement quality will be compromised. However, when used in tandem with work teams, the innovative efforts of project teams combined with daily incremental improvements to help improve organizational performance over time. Combined, both team types help drive consistent change over time. Finally, focus teams serve to coordinate the efforts of project and work teams in those key performance areas that are common to any organization: safety, quality, people, cost, and growth. Typically, you have focus teams and work teams already in place, but how effective are they? What benefits could you gain from having more project teams at work? Why Six Sigma beat quality circles. Quality circles: 1 facilitator for the entire process. Leader and team member training content varies. Most project work takes place in weekly meetings. Each circle picks their own project. Circles have unlimited time to complete their projects. That was the scenario in many facilities in the early 1980s. 10 years later, here comes True Six Sigma as practiced by General Electric, Allied Signal, and Motorola. 1 black belt per 100 people. 1 green belt per 30 people. All exempt people are green belts. Black belts spend 100% of their time on projects. Green belts spend 70% of their time on projects. All project selection is criteria-based. The first organization I worked in, a toy company, had quality circles. In this small-town Arkansas plant of 150 or so people, we had 2 problem-solving teams. They didn't accomplish much in the 2 years I was there, but I'd been introduced to formal team-based problem-solving. My second employer, a writing instrument manufacturer, also had a quality circle program. They had many more circles, but they also had many more folks. It was linked to a horribly backlogged pay-for-ideas program, and probably engaged 10% of the 1,300-person Iowa workforce. But still, it was formal process improvement. Six Sigma was going on at General Electric, Allied Signal, and Motorola by the time that I was exposed to the right way to do employee involvement at my third employer. At that rubber roofing manufacturer in Illinois, we engaged 65% or more of our 210-person workforce on a consistent basis. In fact, this engagement percentage was a key performance goal for managers. We had self-directed teams that engaged essentially all employees by the way supervisors and managers did their jobs each day. Our formal quality circle saved the plant over $1 million annually in late 1980s dollars. The approach used at my third employer worked because it was designed into the way things were done daily at that facility. Process improvement was part of the culture. Through effective job design, product costing, measurement system design, integrated performance review and planning approaches, and comprehensive training programs, we were able to achieve sustained improvement over time. We were also best in class in our industry. By the end of the 20th century, the formal Six Sigma programs that had succeeded at General Electric, Allied Signal, and Motorola were being taken public by a few consultants. Like quality circles and self-directed teams at the roofing plant, Six Sigma worked at these companies because of the supportive infrastructure that was in place, most notably in terms of formal time commitments. There are more quality circles and Six Sigma stories of failure, or at a minimum, mediocre return, than there are success stories. All too often, we ignore the need for a supportive infrastructure and expect similar results from a skeleton process improvement system. Systems give you what they're designed to give you. High levels of meaningful engagement are needed for sustained process excellence. How well does your infrastructure support the efforts of your teams? Barriers to team effectiveness. Lack of support for meeting attendance. Low alignment with company goals. Lack of project development resources. Team resource costs not known. Lack of project time between meetings. Team process seen as an add-on. Lack of team and leader skills training. Limited long-term commitment. Each barrier will compromise team effectiveness to some degree. Over my work career, I've seen the above 8 barriers significantly limit and sometimes destroy team-based improvement efforts in a variety of different organizations. If you're convinced that a team approach and the high levels of employee engagement it fosters is necessary to sustain process excellence, then you need to design your team support systems so that the potential impact of these barriers is recognized and minimized. Otherwise, it will be difficult, if not impossible, to sustain team effectiveness and process excellence over time. Providing time for team meetings, between meeting project work, and team skill development are 3 of the key things that are needed to move towards high levels of project and focus team effectiveness. Almost every organization has focus teams in place, but they rarely give a thought towards how effective these teams, such as safety committees and leadership teams, might be. They also don't think about what changes might be needed to further improve focus team effectiveness. In a similar sense, project team effectiveness is rarely considered beyond the dollars of savings that the team is expected to provide and the timeliness of the project effort. How do you measure the effectiveness of your project teams? It is important not to forget about those management teams that are also project and focus teams by design. Organizations waste lots of money because they focus more on frontline team performance than they do on management team performance. Many organizations do not even question, let alone measure, the output and effectiveness measures of their management teams. Instead, they seem to merely meet for the sake of meeting. We would never let a frontline team get away with doing such a thing now, would we? Finally, keep in mind that process owner effectiveness and a continually improving hiring process are the primary keys to work team effectiveness. Without effective work team leaders, work teams will struggle to reach their hiring potential.